Hey folks, this is video 4 in a short series I'm doing here on YouTube, giving you a full tour of the homestead. And in this series of videos, I'm taking you around, showing you what we're planning to do this year, what we've done, kind of what's going on at the present moment. And I am daily vlogging, and all of those are up at fromthefield.tv. We'll post periodic videos here on YouTube, but if you want to see all my daily vlogs of what's going on, there's so much going on this year. It's somewhat overwhelming. If you want to see where all those are, check those out. That's at fromthefield.tv. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys a little retaining wall pole barn project that I've got going on. We're going to look at my cistern and a pond. The first pond site I'm developing, there's going to be 2 or 3 of them, and look at some of the stuff I'm building my raised beds out of. So enjoy this one, and again, if you want to see all these videos, head over to fromthefield.tv. Okay, enjoy. This area here that's kind of nebulous looking is going to be a big barn, just a pole barn with a single lean-to roof. What we've built down below is a bit of a retaining wall, and my original plan was to do another step out and build a retaining wall high, with the idea of taking all this material that's here, it's not snow, it's just covered in snow, pushing it down, leveling this area out, and building a 3,000 square foot single lean-to pole barn, which is where I'm going to put machinery, put building materials, keep it out of the weather. You know, one of the challenges, the biggest challenge I have on this site is access. We're on a mountaintop, there's very little flat real estate. I have to pretty much create everything. And so what I'm gonna do now with this is just a cheaper way of accomplishing the same thing. Instead of building another retaining wall, which would cost me another $6,000 probably, is we're just gonna push the material and just gradually slope it down at 45. So we can go 6 feet across as we go 6 feet up. And so I'll lose a little bit of floor real estate, but not that much. It still will give me enough to put this pole barn up. Now, whether we get this one done this year, I'm not sure, we'll see. But that's the plan with this. At least I'll be leveling this out so that I can utilize this space. This is that first part of the retaining wall we built. And like I said, what we were going to do is build another step. We were actually going to use those big concrete blocks. But again, my problem is access. It's really difficult to get these things up here. It can be done, but it's too expensive. And one of the things that I've learned on this project is I've really had to curtail my desires and dreams based on reality and what an expense, because I'm at a point now at this project where I'm a year into it, and of course, as every builder will tell you, it always costs more than you think. And so I'm really having to kind of triage what's really important and what can wait. And my basic thought process there is prioritizing the things that have the most compounding effect. So what can I do now that I'll benefit from right away versus, oh, I want to do that, but that's not going to benefit me for a long time. And so that's really my theme this year, is focusing on things that have a compounding effect in the here and now for the long term. So this is the original watershed that came with this property, and it's actually a really neat structure. It's a cistern, so it sits on a concrete foundation that actually goes down, I think it's 8 feet. It's about 12 feet across, and it's, I think, about 16 feet long. It holds 40,000 liters of water. It's a really neat system. And there's underneath this stair is a culvert that goes down about 10 feet. And so what the guy who built this originally did was, and it's a mess here, I feel kind of embarrassed to show all this on video, but this is winter, it's the reality of living on a homestead, this is a water catchment area. There's about 2 feet of gravel under here, and there's a pond that I'm going to show you in a minute down here, and it's kind of connected to that pond. But this culvert fills up in the spring, and then they would pump that water. They just do it manually. Just once it fills up, they'd pump it into the cistern, and then he'd let it recharge, and he'd pump it in again. And that worked for them. It was a small family. They were more off-grid than we are because they had way less electricity and way less resources. but it worked. And so this is actually the water we've been living on for ever since we bought this property in September of 2020. But what I've been doing now is pumping from my well, and I had to do it this winter because we actually used about 25,000 liters in about 3 months this winter. And so I actually had to refill this up by running my Prime 100 line to this, pumping the well on a warm day, refilling this, and then the house that we live in is using this water. So there's a small cabin on this property that we live in for the moment, and it's comfortable enough, and that's where we get our water from. One of the big projects that I want to do this year here is develop this pond. So this pond is already a pond. It's naturally a pond. It's just not deep enough. So I'm going to be taking my mini excavator and excavating this. Last year I took my neighbor's mini X and we put it in here and we dug down. We actually got down 6 feet, no problem. So there's nice kind of sandy soil for 6 feet, all that mineral deposit. So we're going to be digging this out as much as we can. And according to my calculations, this should be able to hold about 1.5 million liters of water. So on the grand scheme of this entire property, what happens here with our little watershed is during the spring melt, a lot of water, basically everything above us comes down to this point. And this moves a lot of water. I've actually measured it because what happens is it overflows and there's a bit of a little a level sill spillway, if you will, that overflows and then runs down the road. Now I've redirected it you can see this in the previous vlogs from the field if you want to go check it out. I did that a lot in the fall, is I've redirected that water in the short term just to get it off the road. But what my plan to do here is have a swale system on this property that's not quite a swale. So because this land is so rocky, I can't just do your typical swale where you trench the ground on contour and then water slowly seeps into the ground. We don't get that kind of retention because of the rock, but we do get good flow. So my plan is to have these swales that slope about 1 degree or 2 degree and direct the water into these ponds. So from this pond, this will be the main catchment pond. I don't need to do any swales above. It all naturally comes here really good. When this pond fills up, and we won't really see the effect of this until next spring 2023, this pond will fill up and it'll overflow and then it'll flow down a channel. It'll eventually make its way into another swale that'll run all along the front side of my property and take it to the other pond. And then below that swale, there's another swale that I'm going to have that is above the above one of the switchbacks on the driveway that will direct water down into that same pond. And so there's going to be a collection of these ponds, and eventually I'll be pumping water up. As they collect on the bottom, I'll be pumping water up the hill and flowing it through the whole system again, sort of naturally irrigating the property. So this is definitely something that we want to do this year. It's not going to happen until the summer because you can't get in there and pull out all the soil as the snow's melting. There's just too much water. It's too much of a mess. But we will be doing this summer. This is the lumber that we're using for the raised beds. This is only about 1/5 of the total garden. And this is all rough sawn, full dimensional, 2-inch by 12-inch by 16-foot long. This is fir, Douglas fir, right from the area here. I didn't mill this myself, though I do have a mill. I actually sold it. I was planning, I had all these ambitions with the mill, but it's a whole to-do to set it up and learn how to use it that I just don't have time for. So I kind of realized that, and I sold it to my neighbor because another one of my neighbors has a mill, and he's milled these for me, and he gives me really fair prices. And so this is the material that all of our garden beds are going to be built with. So the first place some of these are going to end up are in the passive solar greenhouse. We're going to be building those 4 foot wide by 9 foot long by 2 foot deep raised beds. And then the rest of them will probably go in the other greenhouse that we looked at. And then I'll be getting more of this milled to go into the gardens. And that's where all of it will end up eventually. So that's all going to be happening fairly soon. This Quonset behind me, I built this in October 2020. And so it's been up for a while. Last summer, we put this little overhang on it to just keep the area in front dry. I've now got a garage door on this, and this is another project we have yet to finish. We haven't done this yet. It's kind of just been on hold all summer. It's a mess in there. I won't even take you in there. But this is another thing we'll be finishing up in the coming months. So that was kind of an introductory tour talking about what we're planning on doing, a little bit about what's going on, and there's a whole lot more going on. This is going to be probably the craziest year of my life, but I've had a year to kind of warm up to it. It's very overwhelming taking on a project like this, and I would actually advise people, if you're a prepper and you're looking at what's going on and you're wanting to do something similar, I would actually recommend not building a house. I'm already, you know, knee deep in it, so I'm not going to turn back now. But if you're looking for land, I would buy a property that had a house on it and just bootstrap it, build your gardens, go simple. Like if I had to start all again based on and not having any of this right now, I wouldn't build any of this. I would just stick with what I had, and I would just go really lean, do super easy high tunnels, gardens, and I just mostly focus on that. But you know, I'm already well into it, and so I'm not going to turn back now. But our 4 primary things, I've mentioned this in many videos, I'll mention it again, it's worth mentioning. The 4 things that you need for human survival are food, water, energy, and shelter. So last year, I primarily focused on getting my energy system up first because I needed that. And this is again going back to what I said about focusing on things that have a compounding effect over time, is I focused on my energy because I needed that to pump water, and I needed that to live, and I needed that to run power tools. So we got the energy system in first. That was the first thing we did. Then I went, and then during that time we started building. Then from there I got the water going. So we drilled a 400-foot well, got the infrastructure in for that. Now that's functioning. Then I built my water systems so that I could water the gardens, and then I put all of the main Prime 100 lines, which is basically my header line for the entire property all over. So now going forward into this year with the gardens, I'm just going to be piping in my 1/2-inch lines or 3/4-inch lines off that Prime 100 lines, and I've got water everywhere accessible here. So that's all going to be coming up in the next weeks, months, and years really. So if you want to join me on this journey, I'll have these weekly update videos every week on YouTube, and the daily vlogs will all be at fromthefield.tv. So I hope to see you guys there. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the like and share these videos with your friends. Okay guys, we'll see you in the next one.